Hey everyone, this will be the first video that I'm going to put up besides the test one, just getting used to the new camera. Anyway, so a friend of mine sat me down, guy who I avidly play Dungeons and Dragons with and pretty much every other game, and we write together, and so he sat me down and he showed me at least an hour, if not more, of Spoonie. And he talks about him all the time, and I just thought that would be a great thing to show people, is these horrible but wonderful stories that we all have from playing D&D in a couple different editions, but we don't tell anyone else unless they're a part of the group, and that really takes away from what people know about what playing the actual game can be like. So anyway, I was gonna just start a channel, just finally start uploading videos, and take it from there. First thing I wanted to accomplish here was I wanted to tell some of the background of our campaigns. For those of you who have never played D&D, it is older than I am. I only just hit 18. So the first time we ever started playing is when 4th Ed hit. And 4th Ed is now known as one of the worst editions they've put out. For multiple reasons, but everyone has the childhood memories of D&D. Like, you hear about it, or you hear the references, but you don't know anything about it. And so we picked up 4th Ed. Our Dungeon Master, he actually dropped, $180 buying all 3 core rulebooks in one set. And so we just got playing. And our first party, ever consisted of a rogue, a warlock, a cleric, and a druid. And, for the first character I ever played was a druid. And every party has the problem with rule lawyers. People who you just nitpick at every single little thing, and it's like, no, you have to make this check, and just... It really slows down the game, and it can really burn the DM's flavor if they're trying to just get through a scene, and it has to be destroyed with every single little detail. And so we started playing, and we'd never dealt with party differences, so that made one of us wind up as neutral good, one of us as lawful good. The rogue went eventually neutral evil, and then I think the warlock went chaotic evil, and that was the biggest mistake we've ever done. And that was where we learned that a party doesn't function like that. So we have all these people who are completely different alignments, and we can't even get through one session without fighting. And I don't mean fighting with each other, I mean fighting with random NPCs who don't deserve anything. Burning down towns, killing animals for no reason, and it gets to the point where, even as a druid, I didn't understand the concept of a druid's code, even for 4th Ed, which has dumbed things down quite a bit. And eventually, it got to the part where the druid and the warlock were just going to burn down the forest, a forest that we were traveling through. And I just decided, fuck it, whatever. And so, burning down the forest, completely lose my race in my class, and that was pretty much the end of that campaign. And then the warlock and the rogue and I sacrificed our cleric. And the characters who played the rogue and the warlock just kind of left. And we've never had a split party before. And that, starting at an edition that doesn't fully immerse you in the entire history of D&D, which is more books than you can juggle. You don't pick up, the rule lawyer role, the person who's just going to stay out of every argument. You've got the person who kills everything that moves. Hopefully you don't have that person, but again, I guess that's another reason I'm starting this channel, because I don't know what to do with my players anymore. It's gotten to a point where these people have ruined so many campaigns that we haven't ever had one that's finished. And by finished, I mean the characters get through an adventure, and they either decide to take it to another adventure, or they decide to retire their character. Everyone dies, or gets abandoned on a plane, or quits. And by quits, I usually mean that they end up just saying, oh, well, I guess I kill my character in whatever fashion. And it just kills me. So that was the first ever campaign we ran, and we kicked the rogue and the warlock out. They're gone, and we never heard from them again, and that was good because I think it really taught our DM, even with the rest of us, but it really set him straight that if he's going to have to crack down, and there's the whole creationary period of wanting to let your players do whatever you want, but, you know, lawful good and chaotic evil in a party just doesn't work. You know, letting the rogue murder every single NPC in a town to loot their corpses doesn't work. And it wasn't the DM's fault at all. He had walked into that because of the people who were playing the characters. But ever since then, and even in 4th Ed still, we just can't get it right. We had I've started DMing a lot, and we've had one campaign that started in 4th Ed, and eventually some older school players who joined us kept going on about 3.5, and eventually we decided, well, let's just scrap 4th Ed. If you guys really want, we'll build same characters basically in 3.5, and it turned out being a completely different campaign, and that was fine. But at about level 10, I started them off at like 3, and at about level 10, I got really tired of dealing with it, because we had at least 6 people, and you know, eventually it broke into this thing where I asked, we had 8 people at least, and so I asked the first DM I ever had to take over 4 people, and it would be his character and then 3 others, and another guy to take over the other 3s and him. And it worked for a little bit, but then due to issues with drama and living situations, everyone basically stopped talking to each other. And all those characters got abandoned on a plane. Just random planes, because the whole point of the campaign was that they were, like, one DM, it actually turned out really cool. Our original DM ever was taking them, his party, just dropping them through the planes, and he was, you know, doing the elemental planes are out of whack, and you know, gather the crystals and solve this, and for a party that's never, we're still inexperienced players at this point, and that's really cool to go on an adventure like that, and it's less of a Final Fantasy ripoff, and you know, in a D&D format, we still get to control everything that we need. And the other guy, who I was under, took us through time, which was interesting also because then I chose to play a Scion. So all those characters never existed again. They just disappeared. And we still have some of them, but, you know, that's not a character you can take on. That's someone that got abandoned on the elemental planes, which are infinite, so that's pretty much done. Other than that, we've had a campaign that I started, and it was my first one DMing 3.5, which went very sour. It got bad, and I'd never dealt with characters like that before, and I let a lot of things fly, and, you know, if you're DMing something, you should never allow non-core books. We threw in the D20 Guide to Werewolves and the D20 Guide to Fae, and the people who wrote them, I don't have a problem with them, but I have a problem with the way it encourages a character to abuse the things that they've given. I'm not saying that no character should ever be given those options, because not every person is going to make those choices, but as a DM you should watch out for that. And I didn't. So we wind up with a werewolf who takes these feats from the book that make him literally indestructible. He cannot die unless, you know, he has his heart pierced by a silver bullet, or a silver-tipped weapon, whatever. So he literally can't die. So he starts. They're in this cult, is the campaign, and these people have been taken from their lives. We had a Githzerai ranger, and the guy who plays them, as well as his character name, which he always uses again and again, is Jakan. And so if we ever need to refer to him again, we'll just call him Jakan. And then we had Maelstrom, who was our Fey Empyrean. Empyrean is a class from that book. It's basically wizard, druid, except they have access to all of it, and they're spontaneous. Which is scary. And then we had the werewolf, who was a werewolf barbarian? I think he was a barbarian. The point is he left at one point. The werewolf decided, I'm indestructible, I don't care what I have to do for this cult anymore, I quit. And it was an evil campaign. And that appealed. I wanted to do that for my players because it was the first thing, and I thought, well, you know, an evil campaign, you don't have to deal with all the bullshit of good. But again, that was a really, really bad idea. Because what ended up happening is the werewolf leaves. Just downright leaves. And we have a ranger who, if you've ever read the ranger's track feat, there's pretty much no stopping him. So the ranger gets crazy powerful and starts stalking the werewolf across continents. I had to draw up maps like every session because they cover so much distance, and then it went across the plains. And so all the characters, the Empyrean's traveling, Maelstrom is traveling with Jakan, and the person who played the werewolf, and again, I'm just giving these people these names because I don't know if it's okay to use their real names. The person who played the werewolf, I don't remember his character name. But so the ranger tracks him, and eventually the Empyrean and the ranger and the werewolf all meet. And at this point, I had been kind of taking a break, and I let the ranger DM for a little bit, and so I had a character too, but he pretty much just took off, because I didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And what it came down to is the ranger confronts the werewolf, and he says, look, you can either come back to the cult, or I'm going to kill you right here and now. So that doesn't sit well, because the werewolf has started taking levels in Warblade, and Tome of Battle's fuckery with maneuvers is... Personally, I'm close to banning it forever, as I've already done with the D20 Fey book, which I'll explain in a minute. So, the werewolf and the ranger have one last battle, and mind you, the Empyrean, the ranger, and the werewolf are all three brothers who I still play D&D with. Two of them, at least. So, they're all these three brothers, so it's not just character conflict. This is sibling rivalry, and it's still a problem today. And it's the downright bane of each other's existence, because the Warblade beats the shit out of the ranger. He fucking knocks him on his ass and cuts one of his teeth and his ear off and puts them on a necklace and keeps them.